Hey everybody, I hope everyone listening is having a wonderful day. I just want to come on here right quick and talk about a few things. Was out here walking around. I've been walking for like an hour. I finally decided to stop and just talk about a few things before I walk. Maybe I walk to the lake, but then I don't know what. I think it's going to start raining. I think I have time. I walk to the lake till about 8 o'clock and then I'll go home. But I like to walk in the evenings when it isn't that hot. But it's gonna rain again. It's been raining all week. Um. Anyway, enough about that. Azriel did a video last night, and she mentioned a YouTube video, and she was wearing R.Kelly's sweater. I'm gonna put the sweater in the thumbnail so you can see it. Um, and I was just like, this girl is really obsessed with R. Kelly. She mentioned the car. She mentioned the car and said that, it's some boy that was running away that did it. Um, we all know if Azriel didn't burn the car up herself, she got somebody else to do it. There's nothing more to say. Azriel was totally and 1,000,000% involved in the burning of her own car. Nobody cares enough to go burn her car up. R. Kelly didn't do it because he's not going to risk getting more charges. And besides, R. Kelly, he's locked away in a federal jail and he hasn't had visitors because of Corona. And he hasn't been allowed outside his cell. He's been in his cell for the past like 3 months, you know, and because of Corona. And he hasn't been allowed outside to even walk around and get some fresh air. And even though he is diabetic and, he needs to be walking around to get some fresh air and to get some exercise to keep his blood pressure down. But they're not allowing him to do that. And they refuse to let him out of jail because of Corona. Meanwhile, Avenatti is still out and fighting to stay out despite the fact that he has violated his terms and conditions of release. They're trying to lock him back up after the 4th, but I don't know if that's going to happen. Avenatti seems to get away with doing whatever he wants to do without consequences, so we'll see. Yeah, Azriel's wearing R. Kelly's clothes still. He's the biggest monster. He is the most evil man in America, but you're still wearing his clothes. She only cut up the jacket, the $4,000 jacket for kicks. That was just for views and likes. But it showed that she is a psychopath and she'll do anything for attention or anything for fame. She definitely burned her car up to try and say that one of the fans did it or R. Kelly did it, but everybody in the world, 90% of people on social media, people who don't even like R. Kelly, were saying that Azriel did it. Do you know how terrible you have to be to where people who don't like R. Kelly, and maybe they like his music, but they want to see him in jail? Do you know how terrible you have to be to make them say, R. Kelly didn't do this. It wasn't none of the fans. It was you. Do you know how sorry you have to be to where you can't even get sympathy from these psychotic R. Kelly haters? Because people are seeing through everything that she does. It's hard for these whores to get sympathy because there's nothing sympathetic about them. It's hard to have sympathy. It's easier to have sympathy for like a Weinstein accuser or anything because they don't pull these shenanigans in the public. And even though I never believed Weinstein accusers, at least they went around crying and, they were covered up from the neck up. They weren't twerking in pools. They weren't burning down cars. They behaved like victims. So I've never seen victims behave like these women. I've never seen victims go out of their way to stalk the fans of the person they claim was holding them hostage, they claim was having them kidnapped, they claim was starving them, despite the fact that they gained weight during the time they were with R.Kelly. So I don't understand how they were starved. And besides, if R.Kelly didn't give you no food for a week or two, you'd be dead. You'll be fucking dead, because you cannot survive without food or water for a week, or even for a week. I don't think you can survive without food or water for a week. You'll die. You'll fucking die. Your body needs nutrients. So the lies just have been going on, and it's unfortunate that R. Kelly has to remain in jail. I hate it. I pray for him daily. He constantly needs prayer. Positive energy being sent his way, because we're not dealing with human beings. We're dealing with some demonic vipers. It's demonic vipers that we're dealing with. Azriel is a demonic viper. There is no God in her. She's not a human being. She is not worthy of any sympathy and love, because she refuses to stop the antics. What type of person burns up their own car and files fake police reports? Do you know that I think it was Kel's Nation did a search, and it was no open arson, it was no open cases in Florida around where she's at. So when she brought that up, I said, wait. The police are not investigating. The police are not investigating looking for a random person. So if they're not looking for a random person, they must think Azriel did it. So hopefully Azriel gets arrested, because it's about time for this nonsense to stop. Angelo hasn't said anything about it. Larry McGee is pretty quiet about it. Team Lies is pretty quiet about it. I guess they figured that Azriel really did burn her own car up. I just hate this shit. Like, I hate how evil these girls are. Why are they doing this stuff? You have to be a pure demon, a straight bat out of hell, to behave this filthy way. These people are a joke. And I'm sick of it. They're talking about, the NYPD is going to go on strike starting July 4th. And then New York's not going to have no police. So we're going to see what happens there. My son, the rapper My Son, was online really, really giddy and happy, talking about something. He's going to go get a check. As soon as they get rid of the police, he's going to go get a check, and he's going to bring it to the hood. And the Bloods and the Crips are going to run New York. They're going to police New York. So I'm like, when I heard that shit, that flew over a lot of people's heads. And when I heard My Son say that, I'm like, who's going to give him a check? Who is funding My Son? Who is funding all these people that's supposed to be woke rappers? All these rappers who really don't rap, all you see them do is protest. Who is funding them? Because I see My Son living extremely well. He got new cars, new mansions. And I can't think of any hit record that he has put out. All he has done is protested. So who is going to give My Son a check when the NYPD leaves to let the Bloods and the Crips run New York City? And what do you think is going to happen? When the Bloods and the Crips run New York City, they're going to let the crime rate go way up in New York. And then Trump's going to come in, and President Trump's going to say, look at the crime, look at what the Democrats have done. They gone and they gave My Son money for the Bloods and the Crips to run New York City. And y'all have no police. And you know what's going to happen? New York, for the first time in decades, is going to vote red. New York is going to turn red in 2020. Best believe it. These riots are going to make a lot of blue states turn red. And they're turning a lot of people who normally vote Democrat into voting Republican. Because people don't like the shady shit that the Democrats are doing. They feel like the Democrats want us living in the slums. They don't want America to be beautiful. You got to take some pride in where you live in. All these cities that are burnt up and burnt to the ground. If you're a man and you live in those cities, how can you invite a girl over? How can you invite a woman over to spend the night and your city is trash? Y'all done burnt the city down. You have no stores. It looks bad. I won't want to go visit a man's house. A man say, "Ooh, come over, Uber to my house." I'm not Ubering to your house and your house burnt down. I mean, your neighborhood burnt down. You in an unsafe area. Y'all don't even have enough respect to not burn your own stores down and your own Targets and your own pharmacies. If I was living up north, I would not be Ubering to any man's house that was living in a burnt up neighborhood just because I got respect for myself and I refuse to treat my body and toss my body around to somebody who lives in a slum. I wouldn't do it anyway, regardless. But I just couldn't. I'm just glad I don't live in a democratic state. Now I really see this year has really woke me up. 2020 has been my awakening to see how incompetent the Democrats are. How incompetent the Democrats are. Black women, we need to wake up. We need to really wake up. You don't have to like Trump to vote for him. Trump is not coming to your house. He's not going to be at your barbecues. You don't have to like Trump to vote for him. You don't have to like the things he said. You don't have to like the fact. You may say, well, I don't like what he did to the Central Park 5, and he took out an ad on the Central Park 5. All of that is in the past. We're dealing with right now. We're dealing with our destruction. If we get a Democratic president and more Democratic leaders elected at the local level, it's going to be mayhem. It's going to be mayhem. The Republican states are doing well because we have Republican leadership. And down here in the South, people are not tolerating that shit. People are not going to tolerate you coming and burning that shit down. People are not going to tolerate it. And honestly, anybody who was throwing bricks, you come down in the South throwing bricks where everybody's a gun owner, you're going to get shot dead. It has to stop. You're running up rioting for George Floyd. May he rest. May he rest. I love George Floyd. He didn't deserve to die. He was murdered. Those cops need life in jail. All 4 of them. But you're rioting for George Floyd for the past 2-3 weeks. You're protesting in Seattle. You're doing all this foolishness. But nobody said anything about the 114 people killed. Well, shot in Chicago. 114 shot, 14 dead, 5 children dead, including a 3-year-old boy shot in the head while he was in his house. And a 13-year-old girl was shot in the head. I forget the little girl's name. 13-year-old girl shot in the head in a house dancing on TikTok. She was dancing, showing her mother a dance step for TikTok. And she just shot in the head, dead. I don't even know the girl's name. And that's sad. I don't even know that little boy's name. I heard it, but it slipped through my head because there's no marches for him. How come George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and all these other people name have been punched into our brains when they get killed by white men? But when black folks kill other black folks, like this 3-year-old boy that got killed, I don't know his name. And I don't know the 13-year-old girl name that got shot in the head. I mean, I think was she shot in the head or was she shot in the neck? I don't know, one of the two. But I don't even know the girl's name. And it's because there are no protests. So why is my son not mentioning the fact that all the killings that are going on in Chicago, which is a Democratic-run state? Chicago needs to turn. Illinois needs to turn red. If Illinois turned red this election, a lot of their problems would go away because a lot of the shit will stop. A lot of the shit will stop. I think Chicago personally needs to be under military law because it seems like those people down there can't behave. Chicago is a different breed. You know how I feel about Chicago. It's a stink city. I don't like how they turned on R.Kelly. I don't like how they act like R.Kelly was the worst thing to come out of Chicago when he's the only thing that was good about that dirty city. For decades, he's been the only thing that's been positive about that city. They have been committing all sorts of crimes. They've been killing each other. Chicago, more people die in Chicago than at the hands of these police. Police killed like, what, 10 unarmed black men last year? And 114 died in Chicago, got shot in Chicago, 14 dead in one day, Father's Day. Father's Day. So I'm looking at it like, where's the outrage for the black on black crime? And I know people don't like to use that term, but if I went to the hospital and I had a paper cut, and then the man next to me came in and he had a gunshot wound, they're not going to treat the paper cut before they treat the gunshot wound, because the gunshot wound is deadlier and a paper cut is not deadlier. So what I'm saying is the problem that needs the most attention is the black on black crime, because more black men are more likely to die at the hands of other black men than the hands of the cop. Now, is police brutality wrong? Of course. Police brutality will always be wrong, but if we got rid of police brutality tomorrow, let's say we got rid of all police brutality and all the police say, you know what, we're not going to kill any black people, we're going to just arrest them, or we're just going to stay out their neighborhoods. Let's say the police say they're not dealing with black on black crime. Let's say if they said, you know what, we're not policing black people, we're just going to police white people and protect white people. We're leaving black people alone for the duration. Let them police themselves. Let's say the police did that all over the country. Do you know that if the police left every single black person alone, do you know that Nipsey would have still died? Do you know that Huey from Pop, Lock, and Drop It, Pop, Lock, and Drop It, do you know Pop, Lock, and Drop It would have still been shot this week? Shot dead 11 times? So Nipsey would have been dead. Huey would have been dead. Pop Smoke still would have been dead. Pac, Big, XXX Tentacion would have still been dead. All the black men who have been killed at the hands of other black men would have still been dead. So it doesn't change the price of eggs. So you take police brutality out of it, we still would have an alarming crime rate, because black kill other blacks all the time. And until we deal with that issue, and until we come to an accord and say, you know, enough with the violence, we're going to do no harm to each other. We're going to just leave each other alone. If you see somebody or don't like somebody, you stay in your neck of the woods, they stay in their neck of the woods. We're not going to commit crimes as a collective. Until we do that, we really can't be out here marching for police brutality, because at the end of the day, you got to do the same thing, because we can't control the police. We can't control what the police going to do. But like I said, if we got rid of police brutality tomorrow, blacks would still kill other blacks. We harm each other. We kill each other. We lay up on each other's houses and up on each other's cars and ride by. We do drive-bys on each other. And we wet the whole car. Wet the whole car. Kill everybody in the car. Kill everybody in the house. We do that to each other. So we got to deal with our own. We got to sweep our own backyard while we running out here talking about George Floyd, because at the end of the day, George Floyd dead. What are we going to do to prevent the next 3-year-old from getting shot in the head from a stray bullet while they're in their bed sleep? What are we going to do to prevent the next 13-year-old girl, to prevent her from getting shot in the head while she's in her home dancing on TikTok? She was in the house where she was supposed to be, dancing on TikTok. What are we going to do? And I keep saying, black women, we need to, as a collective, I don't know what we're going to do, but a lot of these rich, famous black women need to be doing something to get black women to move up out the hood. Get black women, and it needs to be a program to get black women, especially the ones with children, to move up out the hood, so that the children are not exposed to violence. And honestly, if you're living in the hood, or if you don't have enough money to take care of kids, then you don't need to be having kids anyway. You know, because at the end of the day, if you can't afford kids and you can't afford to raise them anywhere but in the hood, you shouldn't be pregnant in the first place. So that's why when people are like, oh, get rid of abortion, I got to be realistic and I got to say, look, some people don't have the money and you rather pay them. I'd rather they pay $500 for an abortion than they bring a kid into the ghetto and they can't raise and take care of the kid. Because what we have is a lot of poverty going on, because when these men are not taking responsibility for their children, the woman is left to be in poverty. And poverty is a major factor for the crime that is going on. So we need to have more, morning after pills. Is it going around giving black women morning after pills? Are we going to go around and say, hey, condoms, morning after pills? Are we going to preach abstinence? What are we going to do to curb the violence? Because at the end of the day, if black women keep having babies in the hood, we're going to keep seeing the same cycle. We're going to keep seeing the same cycle, and it's time for us to come together as Americans and as the black community and say enough is enough with the violence. We don't want any more 3-year-olds shot dead. We don't want any more 13-year-olds shot dead. And I want to know, where's my son? Where's my son? Where's Tamika Mallory? Where blacks kill other blacks? Where's all these black leaders? They only show up when a white man kills one of us, when that is few and far between. And when black people, I see a lot of videos of black men harming white people. The white people don't go out right about that. So we gotta get our house in order. And we also another thing I want us to know, we also have to make sure that we pay attention to what's going on with New York. Because when the police leave New York, all of yous who are in Democratic-run cities are going to be in trouble, because those cops are going to leave there too. And y'all going to be run by the Bloods and the Crips. And I don't know about you, but I'm glad that shit ain't going to come down here. It's not going to be allowed down here. But, yeah. New York's going to vote red. I see Trump winning New York this election cycle, because they have no choice but to vote for Trump. They can't let these Democratic people run the country and ruin the country any more than they already have. It can't happen. It can't happen. Yeah. So I just wanted to do a little rant about a little few things. Azriel is still lying. She burnt that car up. And she's still wearing R.Kelly's clothes. Nothing more can be said. What more I can say about her? She's a dirty whore. It looks like it's gonna rain. Rain down on me, la 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 la, down on me. Rain down on me, la 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 la, on me. Rain down on me, la 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 la, on me. It looks like it's gonna rain. Let me go on and end this and go do whatever. But anyway, Azriel is a filthy ha 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 ha.